This video is the first one of 3 that will cover the nervous control and nervous system part of control and communication in the National 5 topic. So initially what you need to know is the basics of the nervous system. So this is what this first diagram shows. The nervous system is made up of 3 main parts. And those main parts are nerves, sometimes known as neurons, and the brain, and the spinal cord. So on this diagram it's quite hopefully obvious to spot which one the brain is, which is right here. And this part in the back is the spinal cord. Now together these 2 parts are collectively known as the central nervous system, sometimes shortened to the CNS. So the central nervous system, which is comprised of the brain and the spinal cord, is where most of the processing takes place, so where thoughts and deliberate actions and things are decided. The nerves, or the neurons, which are basically connected to those. So your nerves will receive an impulse and will receive some information and will send that information as an impulse to the brain via the spinal cord. So on this diagram, the nerves are all these parts that are then coming off of the spinal cord here and here. Now there are a lot more nerves in the body than the ones I've shown in that diagram. It's just a very simple one to represent that. So neurons, which they're sometimes called, these transmit electrical impulses. Now these electrical impulses go across the whole body and they go through multiple nerves to get to the brain or to get to the spinal cord. So they transmit impulses and they transmit information from one area of the body to another. Now when we did the first part of the second unit, we talked about specialised cells. What we talked about was how these cells were specialised. These particular cells were specialised. So what you had seen was a diagram, which will not look quite like mine. It would be a neuron with a big long projection coming off of it. So these neurons will receive impulses and then receive impulses or information, and we'll send these impulses along that big projection, and then we'll connect to another neuron, and that will then go on and send that impulse along. So it allows one area, like the end of your finger, to connect to another area in your brain just by sending impulses from one neuron along to the next, along to the next. So the next section, once we've covered this nervous system generally, is to then focus on the brain. And what you'll need to know in National 5 is the different parts of the brain and what their functions are. So I've drawn another diagram. So the brain has 3 main sections, 3 main areas that you will need to know about. Now, as well as that, what I've got on this diagram is a part of the spinal cord here. People sometimes get mixed up between this and one of the other parts of the brain, which is why I've put that on there to show you. Now, when we look at the brain, you can tell which side is the front, which side is the back, because this side will be the back because it has an area called the cerebellum. I'll talk about that in a moment, but for just now, we'll just label this the back and this the front. So the 3 sections of the brain you need to know are the cerebrum, which is the largest part of your brain, and the cerebrum, sometimes called the cerebral cortex. If you're looking at some textbooks, it will then call it that, but that's more higher level. The cerebrum is the part that does the most of the things that your body would be involved in controlling. and it's mostly conscious things, things that you're aware of, or not even mostly, but it's more focused on that. So it controls, and you'd always start your answer with controls. Conscious thought, so what you're actively thinking about and what you decide. It controls speech. It controls memory and personality. All the things that make you, you. The second part of the brain that you need to know about is this bit at the back here. And it's known as your cerebellum. Now your cerebellum is really important. So the cerebellum will control balance and coordination of movement. Now what I mean by that is we can all move, but in terms of coordinating, you actually have to then work areas together with other areas of the body. So if you'd like to walk, for example, you have to coordinate your movements. You can see that when you compare a baby to an adult in terms of their walking ability. The adult's far more coordinated than a baby. So the last bit of the brain that you need to know is this little lump here. And this little lump here is called the medulla. Now that medulla is essential. Without your medulla, you would not be able to do the things that keep you alive. So the medulla controls your breathing rate, and your heart rate. It controls a lot of other things like your blood pressure and all sorts of other core things, key things that your body needs to live. But we generally just give a couple.